Okay. Oh, and if you shout, cough, or clap really loudly, you deafen Nadia.
By the way, yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
Coming up, Publicis restructure, Nielsen get into media planning, and WPP's 2015 results. Hello and welcome to IDCOM's Media Snack episode 15. On today's show, we're going to cover Publicis Media's restructure,
Nielsen buys a media planning tool,
WPP's 2015 results, all coming up in IDCOM's Media Snack, all in the time it takes to eat a sandwich. First up, Publicis Media announces their long-awaited restructure. So we heard from Morris Levy at the end of last year that they were restructuring Publicis Group. Steve King has come to the market with an announcement detailing what that means from a Publicis Media perspective. Mm-hmm. And it's very interesting news as well. So their 6 global media brands are going to be consolidated into 4. So their 6 media global brands are Starcom, MediaVest, Zenith, Optimedia, Spark, and Blue 449.
Yeah.
Okay. They have now consolidated those only into 4. Mm-hmm. Starcom and Zenith will remain independent brands. MediaVest will be coupled up with Spark, and Optimedia will be coupled up with 449, providing a challenger solution to the kind of the network operations.
Interesting.
So a kind of a really interesting restructuring. Nothing particularly revolutionary about it, but he's gone to market with something very, very clear.
So that sounds rather familiar. Echoes of Group M with 3 global agencies and a challenger brand, no?
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair observation, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think probably the difference with this structure is that Steve has decided to underpin his 4 global networks with 7 global practices.
Right.
Okay, so he's essentially retired Vivaki. Okay, so the buying operations will all sort of sit within the 5 brands. Yeah. But underpinning these 4 brands will be content, technology, innovation, business development, analytics. So these 7 key principles will work across all 4 of the media brands, which I think is a really kind of smart way of managing all of their kind of talent in these key areas to drive, I suppose, expertise and excellence within the 4 agency holding groups.
And across the different domains as well, of course,
across the
in a
4
more,
different
I guess,
domains.
integrated proposition.
Yeah. I mean, that's the idea. And he's also restructuring his management team. So there are going to be 3 key regions. He's got Tim Jones looking after the Americas. He's got Ian Jacobs looking after EMEA, and he's got Jerry Boyle looking after APAC. There are going to be brand presidents or CEOs at an individual level, which has still got to come through. Yeah. But given that we had no news at all for so long, the fact that he's gone to market with such a definitive and clear restructuring statement, I think is hugely reassuring for A, their clients, B, their agency personnel, and I think C, the industry as a whole.
Yeah, because he made a very clear statement of intent to his clients with the letter that he's written, outlining the not just the restructure but the benefits of the integration of the new structure, and really reinforcing 3 key values, I guess, which are all around trust, transparency, and talent.
Yeah. And transformation.
And transformation, underpinned by transformation and a desire to use media and integrate media across all of the suite of Publicis domains, if you like, including Sapient and their digital agencies. So the proof will be in the pudding, I guess.
Well, that's right. So no longer will we see Starcom MediaVest Group, Zenith Optimedia Group. Those 2 key brands have also been retired. Mm-hmm. So there is a real changing of the guard. Yeah. But we knew that Publicis needed to do something, needed to have quite a bold statement based on the challenges that they had last year.
Yeah.
And we'll see how they get on with this year and with the new business pitches that I'm sure they will be eagerly anticipating.
Yeah.
So we wish them good luck.
Absolutely.
So next up, an interesting story you've been following about Nielsen, which is a traditional measurement company, getting into the area of media planning.
Absolutely. I think a really interesting development in the industry. Last week, Nielsen company announced the acquisition of a media planning platform. Now, traditionally, Nielsen, a global independent research agency, that has a heritage of measuring market share for FMCG and grocery companies in its buy division,
That's right.
as well as measuring rating points for for media in its watch division,
Yeah.
have made a very interesting foray into media planning and evaluation.
Okay. And so what have they done? What's this Pointlogic business that they bought?
So Pointlogic is a media planning and optimization platform, very much focused on data and digital communications and media planning, that is designed to plug into other measurement sources to help brands optimize the allocation of their media investments.
So they already have the data, right? They've got the measurement data, and now they've got a tool that allows them to use this data to optimize media plans.
Absolutely. So they'll be taking Nielsen's feed of audience measurement and plugging that into real-time platform to help advertisers plan the most efficient and effective campaigns that they can in executing their media budgets. And not only that, they will be able to evaluate and analyze the effectiveness in a much more seamless and integrated way. It's a fascinating development.
And if I was an agency, I'd be worried, right? This is potentially stealing their lunch a little bit.
Indeed, eating their lunch, and we're seeing the boundaries continually blurred in these areas now. You know, we've seen other examples recently of Deloitte entering the programmatic media space.
That's right.
We have Accenture with its own digital, creative and content capabilities. The conventional global marketing conglomerates are increasingly under threat by historically competitors that were not competitors.
Yeah, but I, as a client, I'd love that. I think that's brilliant competition. Businesses that have an expertise in a certain area, using that expertise to provide them with a point of difference when it comes to media planning, media strategy, and in some cases, media execution.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a good thing for the industry. It does, however, rely on clients having greater knowledge to be able to make more informed decisions. But whilst it might trouble some of the traditional agencies, I think it can only be a good thing for the industry.
Agree. So finally, something we've been watching really closely, which are WPP's annual 2015 financial results.
That's right. So last week we talked about Havas announcing their very healthy annual results. This year, Martin Sorrell and his team shared their 2015 results, and equally impressive they were too. So global revenues were up 6% to a massive £12 billion. Now, just to put a little bit of context to that, we talked last week about Havas, and their revenue figures had increased by 17-18% year on year to a total of £1.7 billion. WPP have announced £12 billion worth of revenue figures, so an enormous achievement. And in the UK, their figures were up 8% to 1.7, so the same figure as Havas have in terms of a global perspective. This is 5 years on the trot that WPP have announced record results. So,
Incredible.
Sir Martin Sorrell and the team down there must be incredibly pleased with the situation.
Absolutely. And when we look into the results in a little bit more detail, at a regional level, we have the US, the engine room of WPP.
Yeah.
I think 37% of their global revenue, but up 7% to £4.5 billion revenue.
Wow.
With a 10% surge in revenue growth in Q4 alone.
And perhaps that was down to some of the conclusions of the Mediapalooza review. But nevertheless, Q4, which is generally a relatively cautious quarter for most businesses, has, for WPP, seemed to have had an impressive result.
Absolutely. And you know what also is impressive? It's the performance of WPP's advertising and media investment management division.
Right. Okay.
Essentially the media planning and buying department.
So Group M.
Group M.
Right.
With some astonishingly healthy figures, buoyant figures, up 8.4% to £5.5 billion.
Wow.
Out of the 12 billion. So that's 45% of all of WPP revenue coming out of media buying.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then contributing nearly 50% of operating profit, about 800 million pounds of operating profit out of the 1.77 billion.
That's
coming
amazing.
Out of media investment management. So a very bullish performance from the company.
So a business that is 30 years old last year has issued 5 consecutive years of record-breaking reviews. You'd think that Martin Sorrell would be incredibly bullish about the future, right? But
Yeah.
he has an air of caution about him.
Yeah, funnily, he said that we should be cautious from having a Don Draperish optimism about the,
What did he
the
mean by that?
performance going forward. Well, I think he's really referring to the fact that with a subdued global economy, with certain markets and emerging markets showing stagnant growth,
China slowing down.
slowing down, Brazil slowing down, stagnant GDP growth, we have pressure on consumer price inflation, and this is all having an effect on companies' purchasing power, meaning that in order to generate any sort of business growth, revenue growth, one of the only last remaining levers is to continue to cut cost.
Right, okay.
And this is having a suppressing influence on marketing budgets, against, of course, a backdrop of brands where CMO tenure is 2 years, so very much a short-term perspective on driving marketing performance.
So they're chasing savings.
Chasing savings, and ultimately, continuing to put pressure on media price. So against a backdrop of lovely ambition to grow brands through marketing effectiveness, I think what Martin Sorrell is ultimately saying is that there's pressure on commoditized media buying industry.
So he's being realistic, essentially.
Yeah, I think that's true.
And this remains the darling of the investment community. So I think if Martin Sorrell and WPP are airing caution, there would be a great deal of legitimacy in perhaps that sentiment. But we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it for this week. Thank you for watching. Have a good weekend.